In 1966, the Chevy Electrovan prototype became the first hydrogen fuel cell road vehicle, though it was scrapped for cost concerns before it ever actually left the testing track. Since then, governments around the world have spent billions on the polar bear-friendly dream of cars whose only exhaust is water. But so far there's exactly one car you can buy and this many stations to actually fill it at, most of which produce hydrogen on site and can only fill about 3 to 5 cars a day. Hydrogen has been the car of 10 years in the future for the last 50, and there's a very good reason for that. The combustion of hydrogen gas is so inefficient you wouldn't want it to power your lawnmower, let alone a car. These engines were largely deemed useless by the end of World War II. Since we're not using super-cooled rocket fuel liquid hydrogen in cars anytime soon, we're left with hydrogen fuel cell cars. And the big problem with fuel cell cars is that they're all electric cars, but worse. That's right, every single hydrogen car you've ever heard of is propelled by an electric motor. The only difference is an electric car stores its energy using batteries instead of hydrogen. And batteries. Yeah, hydrogen cars require batteries to run the motor. They're really hydrogen hybrids. The fuel for electric cars is readily available in first world countries because outlets are everywhere. And while the electric grid may need upgrades and maintenance to handle more electric cars, it needs upgrades and maintenance anyways. Hydrogen is the most abundant element in the universe, but before the hydrogen advocates start celebrating, realize that in nature hydrogen is clingier than your worst ex. To split hydrogen off and fill a car with it wastes so much energy that the whole process is farcical. The simplest way to obtain hydrogen to power a car is through a process called electrolysis, where water is split into hydrogen and oxygen using electricity. Alternatively, you could use water and methane, but with a CO2 output, you might as well just use a regular old gas car with longer range and cheaper fuel and less expensive cars and parts and maintenance. But either way, there's a key factor missing from both of these equations: energy. Truly balanced equations look more like this. As you can see, hydrogen takes a lot of energy to separate from other atoms. That energy input from some kind of power plant has been inefficiently converted into hydrogen gas. But unlike electricity, the hydrogen is not nearly ready to go in your car. Right now, the hydrogen is an incredibly low-density gas, much lighter than air. And while this may be good, or not so good for your airship ambitions, to power a car with this hydrogen, you would need a fuel tank the size of a swimming pool. To reduce the volume of the hydrogen, we must either compress or liquefy it, yet another process where energy is lost. Liquefaction gets ruled out almost immediately since the temperatures required to create and store liquid hydrogen are literally hundreds of degrees below zero, much colder than liquid nitrogen, and certainly much colder than my car's AC can handle. Compression is way more efficient, with only 10% energy loss. Let's ignore the issues of hydrogen storage and transport for a moment and skip to the end of the process, running the hydrogen through a fuel cell to create electricity to power the car's motors. We could have powered these motors with batteries and kept about 70% of the energy we put in, but instead, the futuristic technology of hydrogen fuel cells has lost half its energy again, leaving us with only 35% of the energy that originally came out of the power plant. Even if you somehow brought back futuristic fuel cells with 90% efficiency, the sheer number of extra steps involved makes hydrogen less efficient. The two steps we've ignored until now, storage and transport, are both crises for hydrogen. The hydrogen fuel tanks have to be made out of carbon fiber to withstand the required compression pressures, and the fuel cells themselves require platinum catalysts. Hydrogen also embrittles and eventually cracks almost any kind of metal, especially at high pressures like what we need for cars. Since hydrogen is the smallest element, it will leak from the tiniest holes or fractures as an invisible, odorless, highly flammable gas. Not to worry though, hydrogen burns clear, so you probably won't be able to tell even after it catches fire. The multi-million-dollar infrastructure required to transport hydrogen despite these issues makes moving oil and gas look as safe and simple as moving water. And as of the making of this video, approximately none of this infrastructure exists. But the worst problem of all is right back at the beginning of this stupid hydrogen process. Chemically, hydrogen production comes primarily from water. But not just any old water. Electrolysis requires very clean water. Do you know what California, the US state most invested in and promoting hydrogen, doesn't have right now? Clean water. They are in the middle of their worst drought ever recorded, and they're hardly alone. The problem only gets worse as you look at scaling hydrogen to national or worldwide levels. as water shortages were named as the #1 risk to society by the World Economic Forum. Using massive amounts of energy to generate billions of gallons of clean drinking water, only to then inefficiently turn it into fuel in our cars, isn't just stupid. It's Saturday morning cartoon villain levels of stupid. Give a thumbs up, share, and subscribe if you like this video, and feel free to tell me in the comments that the Hindenburg was coated with thermite. Peace out.